Hi everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at my latest 2020 Democratic rankings. And so I haven't done this in a while, but it should be interesting to take a look at what obvious drastic changes have occurred since my last ranking. So, my last ranking, I had Warren at number one, and I had Biden number two, Sanders three, Buttigieg four, and I forget who was five. I think it was. I do forget who was five. But anyway, those were my top four, and obviously a lot has changed since then. So, taking a look, we'll do our top six here. Amy Klobuchar, I put in sixth place. I think that she is still barely hanging on in this race. She came in a surprise third in New Hampshire. She outperformed her polls in both Iowa and New Hampshire. And it will be interesting to see if we go into these more diverse states, these states with more people of color, if she's able to replicate the success she's had. I don't think it will be as drastic of success, but is definitely someone to look out for. Amy Klobuchar, I don't think she's got much of a chance of capturing the nomination at this point, but she's hanging on quite well in sixth place. She's sort of if you can imagine the rest of the field running, she's sort of running but 20 paces behind, but she's not falling any further behind. She's like behind, but she's keeping on pace, if that makes sense. Elizabeth Warren in fifth place. Now, this is generous for Elizabeth Warren. You could definitely make the argument that Klobuchar is ahead of Warren, but I do put Warren slightly ahead of Klobuchar because her national poll numbers are much better than Amy Klobuchar. She has shown strength in states like California and other such states, and it's going to be interesting to see how she does. But at this point, it doesn't seem very well for the Massachusetts senator. I'd say Klobuchar has probably a 1 in 100 chance of being the nominee, and Warren also probably has about a 1 in 100, maybe a 1 in 80 chance of being the nominee. It's not looking good for Warren, but she can say that, I'm in fourth place in the national polls and almost in third place, just behind Bloomberg. But yeah, that's going from first place to fourth place. So put it that way. She was in first place at one point. But fifth, Elizabeth Warren. Fourth place, I put Pete Buttigieg. So Pete, I do put ahead of Warren and Klobuchar. Even though Warren's poll numbers nationally are better than Pete Buttigieg's polls nationally, it's just Buttigieg, he won Iowa, right? If you win Iowa, or he co-won Iowa, right? He won it with Bernie, but that really gave him the springboard effect to go into New Hampshire. He almost beat Bernie in his backyard in New Hampshire. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Buttigieg does. But Buttigieg definitely more likely than Warren to win. I'd say probably a 1 in 40 chance of being the nominee. So still pretty outside odds. But, there's always a slim chance. I mean, just ask Amy Klobuchar, right? Just ask Amy Klobuchar. She surged after a good debate into third place in New Hampshire. It's going to be interesting to see how Mr. Buttigieg does. In third, we have former Vice President Joe Biden. So, for Joe Biden, I mean, it has been quite the roller coaster ride. At this point, he's definitely second in almost every national poll. I think he's barely hanging on in South Carolina. I mean, he's grasping straws here in this race. But Joe Biden has recently lost his front-runner status in the national polls to Bernie Sanders, and looks like he may even go down behind Michael Bloomberg into Elizabeth Warren territory, which would be devastating for the Biden campaign. Now, if you take a look at Joe Biden, he came fourth in Iowa. He came fifth in New Hampshire. Those are bad for Joe Biden. Those numbers are bad for Joe Biden. And I would say at this point, unless he comes in a close second in Nevada, even if he may be able to win South Carolina by a small margin, I think it's pretty much game over for Joe Biden. But, here's the thing. He still has more diverse states coming up. He still has an outside chance. I'd say probably 1 in 20, 1 in 30 chance, maybe 1 in 30 chance of being the nominee. Joe Biden with a 1 in 30 chance of being the nominee. Okay, in second we have Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg, very interesting character, rose to prominence in the field only a few weeks ago, and right now he's surging in the national polls. It's going to be interesting to see how he does in tonight's debate, which is in about 2 hours from now. But yeah, Mike Bloomberg, second place. He's third in the national polls, but he's surging. I expect him to pass Joe Biden soon, unless he has a awful debate performance, in which case you might see him at least blunt the momentum. But I'd put Michael Bloomberg in second. He has an practically unlimited war chest. Just going to be interesting to see how he does. And then obviously number one, Bernie Sanders. He's the front runner right now. Bernie, the front runner, he's right now the favorite. I'd say in terms of a plurality of delegates, in that he'd get 50% plus one out of these candidates, I'd say, 60% chance that he'd do that. In terms of plurality, if I'm going to put odds on these candidates, I'm going to say 60% for Bernie, probably 20% for Bloomberg, maybe 15% for Biden, and then 3% for Buttigieg, 1% for Warren, and 1% for Klobuchar, winning 50% plus 1, that is. But then in terms of winning that's for a plurality of delegates, winning more than any other candidate. In terms of winning 50% plus 1, I'd say a contested convention. At this point, I'd put 40% odds on it actually being contested convention. I'd put Bernie having 30% odds on that. Bloomberg maybe 15%. Biden probably 10%, Buttigieg 3%, Warren 1%, Klobuchar 1%. Klobuchar probably, Warren and Klobuchar less than 1 in 100% chance. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Thanks, goodbye.